If you're a regular listener, you know we love our Three Spirit drinks.
They are the non-alcoholic spirit drinks that are taking the world by storm.
Three Spirit is a range of 3 distinct drinks, each with its own unique flavor and effect.
The Livener is a refreshing and invigorating drink that is perfect for starting your day or night.
The Social Elixir is a smooth and sophisticated drink that's perfect for sharing with friends.
And the Nightcap is a calming and relaxing drink that's perfect for winding down before bed.
All 3 drinks are made with plant-based ingredients and are free from alcohol, gluten, and sugar. They are also vegan and ethically sourced.
So, whether you're looking for a delicious and refreshing drink to enjoy on its own, or a sophisticated non-alcoholic alternative to cocktails, Three Spirit is the perfect choice for you.
Try Three Spirit today and discover the difference. Visit us.threespiritdrinks.com and use the promo code The Activity Continues for 15% off your entire order. Cheers!
That one was our best one yet.
Everybody here is in danger. Everyone is in jeopardy.
Hey, Ghosty fam. Welcome to The Activity Continues, a podcast where 3 soul friends talk about all things paranormal, ghosts, hauntings, psychics, movies, and TV shows, especially the Dead Files, like we're going to do today, and other spooky and spooky adjacent things as well. We also like to interview people in the paranormal community, as well as past Dead File clients and other interesting people. Sometimes we even tell your stories. I'm Amy P., aka P., and please say hello to Amy, who is going to tell you what we're doing this week.
Thanks for joining us again. Hello. Today, we're going to be talking about the Dead Files episode called Lust to Kill. It's from season 8. It's episode 10, and it originally aired on August 26, 2017. And I chose this one, and I did so because it seemed like we hadn't done a lot of season 8 as I was looking through our list, and I was like, okay, we should do one from season 8.
Mm-hmm.
So I started reading the synopses of these, and this one stood out to me because it had a double homicide, but it actually had so much more.
Yeah.
There's a lot on this one where there's a lot to unpack here. So that's why I chose this one. I want to note that today it's just the 2 Amy's. Megan had a scheduling conflict, so she will be back next week, and she's out having fun, doing something fun. And we're doing something fun too, just different thing. The content warning is that there is child death and
in
history,
yep.
Possibly murder, and a serial killer / family killer, family annihilator. Do we call that?
Yeah, I think she could classify, sort of.
Yeah.
Household annihilator.
She killed everybody that lived with her. Well, we'll get there. But anyway, that and probably some swearing, mostly because I will be in my notes. I quoted Amy Allen because she was hilarious in this one.
Oh, she was on point. Oh my
God. She was so good on this one. So that's that. Should we jump in?
I think we should.
All right. So you have the overview that you would like to read?
I don't have the overview on this one.
Oh, okay.
I did on
the next one. The one we're doing next. Okay.
And yeah.
We had a little confusion where when I
Mercury's in the microwave, okay?
Yeah. I told Greg today when we were on our way to dinner, I said, so you know why things have been really weird lately? And he's like, no, why? I said, because Mercury's in retrograde. And he goes, oh, sure. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yep, it is. And he goes, no, it isn't. And I go, yeah, it is. And he goes, no, it isn't. Yeah, it is. No, it isn't. Yeah, it is. And I'm like, okay, we could do this all night, but that's not going to be very much fun.
Yep. It started December 13th.
Yeah.
And it goes through, I think, January 1st or 2nd, and we're recording before the new year here. So Happy New Year, everybody.
Yeah. Happy New Year.
Because we forgot about all that.
That's right. I think this one, what did we decide? This one's coming out
late January
25th.
Okay. So hopefully the year started off well for all of you.
Yes. Hopefully. We're manifesting because we're looking into the future.
Correct.
Yep. All right. So I didn't write a synopsis either because I was thinking I didn't have to. So I'll just do you want to do a quick one or just make it up, or do you want me to do it? Or
yeah, I can go through quick and just you throw in if there's anything I miss.
Just hit the high notes and then we'll go back and dissect more. Okay, cool.
All right. So this episode is season 8, episode 10. I don't have the date that it aired on.
I do. Hang on. August 26, 2017.
All right. So August 26, 2017, it takes place in the village of Victor, New York, because we see the sign come through. Mm-hmm. We have owners, Lisa and Brad, and their 6 children, who we don't get all the names of the kids. We just get one of the names of the kids. Mm-hmm. And the history is a little fuzzy, but it sounds like Lisa had been in this house her whole life, but moved in with her previous husband at some point in the past. Mm-hmm. We don't exactly get a time frame of when. We just know previous ex-husband now. They lived there for about a year and a half before things went south. Mm-hmm. So living there with the kids and Brad, her now husband, lots of things going on, smells, physical touching. They had a pagan high priestess come in, which will be important later on when we talk through things. Mm-hmm. I wrote down it's not the dog, Steve, because he makes that point again.
He did.
And basically, we're just we get that there's a lot of things going on that are uncomfortable for the people in the house. And later in the episode, we hear Lisa say she's concerned that somebody's going to die. Mm-hmm. Steve has the historical investigation. He talks to an author, a genealogist, and a sheriff.
Not a gynecologist.
Not a gynecologist. Author talks about a man who, of course, married a spinster.
Yes, another spinster.
Yep. And there's a lot of stuff that goes on there, but he died, again, they said 1,700 feet away from his house, which is about a quarter mile. And there's a lot of death surrounding this woman. And the genealogist tells us about another person who lived in the area, had a lot of death in their family. As Steve always uncovers, somebody has a lot of tragic death in their life, whether it just is the time period or what, it's always tragic. Yep. And then we talk with a sheriff who gives us a story about a double homicide. That was, we have a little bit maybe trigger on some mental health issues that are talked about as well.
True. Yep.
Amy's investigation, she keeps talking about somebody that are Bonnie and Clyde very rowdy. All of the raging alcoholics, they feel that they were banished by something into the darkness and they are ticked off at the people in the house. And so they're always partying, which I guess if that's... Do they get hangovers if they're partying in the afterlife?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I mean,
I hope not.
You're right. So those are a couple of the spirits. Amy sees a few others. One is a evil, mad widow who hates children and plays with their brains. Mm-hmm. And then another guy who is sitting there crying about, I didn't do it, I didn't kill her. So we have some interesting people coming through. And of course, we get to the reveal. We see some very creepy sketches. One is absolutely horrifying. One looks a little cartoony to me.
They both look a little cartoony to me, though, one more than the other, but
yeah. The first one of just the person looks kind of like a caricature.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah.
Amy is most concerned about the widow, who is somebody we'll talk about. And of course, she tells these people, you need to vacate immediately.
Get the fuck out.
Yes, you could come back here after you do the things I say you should, but you should just burn this fucker to the ground.
Yep.
So what do you think these people did?
Well, I screamed, are you fucking kidding me?
My mom was sitting there, and who I love watching with my mom because she's very logic brain. If you think I'm logic brain, and she sits there and goes, they always do the opposite of whatever Amy says. If she tells them to leave, they stay. I'm like, Mom, I watched 2 yesterday that they actually followed what she said.
Sometimes they follow, but yeah.
At one point, the husband says, we'll stay and battle together.
Yes. They're both military.
Yes.
Veterans. And so there's a couple of other things. There's also a part where Steve is talking to Lisa and she says, well, in combat, you learn to stick around and fight for your thing or whatever.
Leave no man behind.
Yes. And leave no man behind. And Steve said, well, this is a little different than the battlefield. And she goes, it's a different battlefield.
Yes. Yeah. So where do you want to start? Because can I just say that when Steve's interviewing them at the beginning, I feel like it's pulling teeth to get any detail out of, especially Lisa.
Interesting.
And I don't know if that's her background or if that's just she's not a person who gives a lot in embellishment into stories or anything like that. But it just felt like she's like, yeah, sometimes we smell things.
Yeah.
Sometimes we hear things. And then as it went on, she started explaining a little bit more, like we smell tobacco in certain parts of the house. We smell cologne in other parts of the house. We hear voices. I have sickness, heart racing and that sort of stuff. She just didn't feel very forthcoming on details, very close-lipped, it seemed. And maybe that's part of my brain went to, is that military aspect?
Yeah, it could be.
It was interesting. There were 6 kids. We don't get the kids' names except for Courtney, the oldest daughter. And then
they mentioned some of the other kids' names later. Like at the reveal, Steve goes, "Oh, that's so and so and so and so's room," but I don't know which kids those are. I
think those were the 2 littler ones that we heard.
Those 2 are cuties,
very much so. And the one was like, "Yeah, scariest thing is the door slammed and I didn't see anybody there." But then the other one says, I saw a child walking up the stairs.
Yeah.
And Steve's like, well, was it your age or your brother's age? And he goes, no, he was like this big. A toddler.
A toddler. And he goes, yeah, a toddler.
Yeah.
A little toddler baby child walking around like that. Yeah. Oh.
And that was one of those that it was like, okay, that's not Steve having a leading question. He had a leading question with Courtney, with the daughter. Are you afraid for your siblings or something like that? It was like, well, yeah, I'm afraid for my siblings.
Yeah. Duh. Why do you think you're here?
But now I wonder if that toddler is tied to, William Dreyer, who was kind of the jack of all trades, the one that the genealogist talked about. Genealogist Barbara French talked about this William Dreyer. She listed off a bajillion things that he did.
But I wrote them all down. He
was like a carpenter and a mayor, and
he was a miller. He ran a hotel. He was a master carpenter and the postmaster of Victor.
Yes. I just put down jack of all trades.
Yeah.
But he lived in the area on the property. And then his 1-year-old daughter died, or approximately 1-year-old daughter. So I wonder if the child's potentially could be that toddler.
Yep. Yeah.
But his first wife died of tuberculosis. She was only 22 or 23.
Yeah.
So my mom goes, so that means he married her at 15.
Oh, I didn't do the math.
I didn't either. I didn't pay attention to when they got married in 1830, which he would have been 20.
Yep.
But yeah, I wonder if there was something with that. We didn't hear about them later on in the reveal.
Right. Yeah. And then, that one that I think, remember when Amy said she saw a a kid on a table and they were doing surgery. I'm thinking that might be the 16-year-old daughter.
That's what I was thinking too. So William Dreyer got married after his first wife died.
Yeah.
And he and that wife, I didn't catch her name. They had two kids and his daughter died at 16.
Yeah.
And so we didn't get there was no records. And of course, women in history,
nobody cared what they did.
Nobody cared. But he didn't die till he was in his 80s.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So I was thinking that was probably her. They didn't talk about it in the reveal, but I kind of made that connection. I didn't think it was the toddler because she said a kid and she would have said a baby if it was that.
Yeah.
1-year-old.
You're right. I felt the same way when she was going through, like, I see her on the table, like they're like surgery, they're doing an operation or something, but she still died.
Yep. Yeah.
Or the kid still died. I don't think she said she or not. But.
I think she did. I think she did say she.
But both of those. I watched this like 3 hours ago, guys.
Yeah. I watched it like an hour before that. We weren't necessarily planning on recording this one tonight. We were just going to meet and chit chat and stuff. And then we're like, hey, if let's just do it. We all watched it. Let's just do it. And then, we hadn't all watched it. I thought Amy had watched it. Megan had watched it. I had watched it. Turns out didn't matter if Megan watched it or not. She's not here. But, so Amy was a trooper and watched it real fast.
I watched a different one, thinking I was preparing for this one yesterday. So I got
she's reading my notes and going, that doesn't sound like this one at all.
No.
Oh, it's fine. We'll do that one another time so that it's not.
Well, and it's another one from season 8. So
yes, it's the next one.
Yes.
It's
also
episode 11.
To kill in the title.
Yes. Yeah. What was it? Something
Influence to kill.
Influence to kill. Yeah.
So if you want to watch that one for an upcoming discussion.
Yeah, that'll be in the next week
ready.
or 2. Yeah. 2 or 3 weeks, actually.
Yep.
Okay. So then, along with, I'm running back to see if there's anything else that we need to touch on in the earlier stuff.
So one of the things my mom called out about this, and I think you probably noticed it too. She's like, why are they living in this house? It looks like it should be condemned.
I noticed there was a wall that had like no wall on it.
Where they're talking to all of the children, all of the boys in the one room, there are patches where you can just see the wood slats behind the plaster and everything. Yeah. Like, and I mean, okay, we all know like older houses and that sort of stuff. So that's also where it goes to, okay, we've joked about this before and Amy will tell people like, you need to leave, or Cindy's like, I'm not sure if you should stay. And we kind of joke, well, it's our dream house and we sink all our money into it.
Yeah.
But the reality is that we also know people can't just up and move.
Yeah.
And at the end of this, Amy's like, you should burn this to the ground. Nobody should live on this property. This needs to go. Like, you need to get rid of this. You can live here if you followed the instructions, but I wouldn't. And who can just let go of a property and not sell it for anything? Like, I get that aspect, and you can kind of see that maybe there are some hardships going on because there are not even just bare walls. It is pieces of the plaster are gone, because this house was built by, who was it? Was this McCullen Mosher?
McClellan, I think. Yeah.
It was McCullen, something like that. Yeah. Mosher and his wife in the early 19-teens, in the 1919. I have 1918 is when the homicide happened.
Yeah. I'm looking at that right now. I see.
Or was it George
McClellan Mosher? He lived near the property, so it wasn't him. It was George, like Beament or whatever his last name was.
And so Beeman, he died in 1899. So this house is over 100 years old, but it's in rough shape.
Yeah.
And again, we hear from Lisa that, like, because Steve asks her right away, like, well, why don't you just leave? And she's like, well, I can't. There's so many memories here. I grew up here. But we don't hear if she lived there or was this like her grandparents' house. And then he asked if she had experiences then. Sounded like she had some, but they were more when I don't know. again, going back to, I felt like she was not as forthcoming on details because she talks about her ex when they moved in with their 3 kids.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know time frame because she also says the kids are mine, his, and ours.
Yeah.
So I think at least one of the kids.
I think one of the little boys, or no,
Yeah.
actually, if you look at the picture, there was a baby
Okay.
in the picture, like not baby, but like 1 to 2.
Yeah. Because they did talk. Because I don't think they talked to 6 kids. I think they talked to like 4 boys and Courtney.
Yeah.
So that would make
sense.
There
are
then.
6 kids total.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm guessing that the little baby is theirs.
Yep. So, but she doesn't say how long she's actually physically lived in the house.
I thought she said she moved in 3 years ago. I don't think I wrote it down, but I thought she said
she said that there. Yeah, I didn't hear that part, but I heard when she said that about a year and a half in is when her and her ex-husband separated because his demeanor just changed really quickly. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, she didn't really give a lot of details about that. So it's like, it sounded like maybe he already had some of these because she said it escalated.
Oh.
So maybe he already had some of whatever was going on and stress, anxiety, whatever might be induced, just increased it.
Mm-hmm.
So, don't know exactly, but then, because if that was only 3 years ago, she moved on to Brad pretty quick.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that would be a halfway through between when she moved in and now. I got the impression that she was blaming the paranormal a little bit on his personality change. And Amy did say that I think it's the widow that makes people feel anxiety and stress and all of that.
The Bonnie and Clyde couple could too, just because of
all the partying.
Like the one bedroom that's above the kitchen, she said it was that's their room. They love to make noise in there. And Lisa in the reveal was like, yeah, the kids' friends don't want to stay over anymore.
Yeah.
And
I'm guessing that's one of the boys' rooms.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think she was alluding to that it was paranormal, but she didn't really give a lot of details as to what happened.
That's true.
And so it's like, but then, Steve asks Brad, well, did you know it was haunted before you moved in? It's like, well, they told stories, but I figured they were just stories.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and he was a skeptic when he moved in.
Yes.
And then when the big black shadow thing hovered over them in their bed, he said, that's when he became no longer a suspect. Too much true crime. Skeptic. And he said, what I can't see is mind wrecking.
Yeah.
That was a weird way to say that, but cool.
Yeah. And
go
ahead. I was going to say they talk about the smoking because both of them apparently brought it up to each other that they could smell the cigarette smoke and they were, I'm guessing, accusing each other of smoking.
Were you smoking?
Or one of the children of smoking or something. Yeah.
We used to have cigarette smoke smell in our old house.
Oh, yeah.
And when Greg first smelled it, he thought I was smoking in the house. And I had always promised I'd never smoked in the house. I did still smoke back then, but I smoked outside. And I kept saying, no, I'm not. Maybe somebody outside is smoking, like walking down and the windows open. But then we would smell it even when the windows were all closed up. And it was fresh. It wasn't just like something old, like an old smoke smell in the wood or anything like that. No, it was a freshly lit cigarette. Yeah. Yeah. I swear to God, it wasn't me. It really wasn't.
Well, it wasn't me.
It certainly wasn't you.
Do we know exactly when she brought it? She said the pagan high priestess. And then at the end in the reveal, she said something about a coven high priestess.
Yeah. Which is probably the same thing, but it just sounded.
It is, but
I noticed that the wording was different.
The wording was different, and I don't want to lump things together because those are areas I don't know, and so that's why it caught my eye. That it's like, well, she said pagan high priestess, and now she's saying a coven's high priestess.
Yeah. Well, a coven is a group of witches.
Right.
And pagans can be witches, but I don't think pagans
necessarily
are necessarily
are.
witches. Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
who knows? But this one must have been a witch if they were from a coven.
she came in to do a cleansing is what Lisa had said. But obviously what we hear later on and what we hear from Amy is that it was a banishment. And Lisa confirms in the reveal, yeah, there was a lot of get out of here.
Out.
This isn't your space. Get out. Where I feel like Amy usually has, like, she's like, some ghosts or some spirits you do that to. In other cases, you have to be kind of like, hey, this isn't your space. It's time to go.
Yeah.
So a little bit different tone and different way. And they felt like they were banished to the darkness. So they were partying all night to piss off the living.
Yeah. Yeah. The Bonnie and Clyde couple.
Who we never really find out who they might be.
No, Steve doesn't find any connection to something in history that could be them. Yeah. I don't know who that could have been. Maybe the first husband brought them in with himself or something.
Yeah. Well, she said it. Amy said that she got like 1920s, 1930s, kind of like that height of, gangster, prohibition and gangster times, and which is when Bonnie and Clyde were around as well. And this isn't Bonnie and Clyde. She just kept calling them.
Yeah. She said they like Bonnie and Clyde, like they want to be like them or they admire them. Yeah. She said they get wasted and bang into the walls. And I'm like, why don't they go through the walls? How does a ghost bang into a wall?
Have you been watching School Spirits? They don't bang into walls.
That's right.
Or bang through
walls.
walls.
We have to talk about that.
Yes, we do.
We do that
I'm
right
only
now?
halfway through the season.
Okay. I won't. I've finished it and holy fuck. Yeah. Oh my God. And I was reading reviews on the Facebook Streamerinos group, and they were like, I did not see that end coming. I did not see that end coming. And I'm like, I will. I'm sure I will. I always know. I always see the end coming. I did not.
I can say people I feel sketchy about right now.
Okay.
Because the way that they're leading you down a path, they're trying to make it so that there's like 3 main suspects.
Well, every episode, I think, has a suspect.
Yes.
And then in the next episode,
which is kind of like how Broadchurch was to me. I don't know if you ever watched Broadchurch.
Yeah, I did. I like Broadchurch. Yeah.
That first season especially was always you were fully convinced at the end of that episode that person was the murderer.
Yeah.
And then you go back and you're like, there's a breadcrumb.
Yeah.
There's a breadcrumb.
Yeah. Yeah. I love this show. I told Greg about it. I might see if I can get him to watch it because I'd like to see it again. Now that I've seen the end.
I don't like one of the ghosts. He kind of.
Okay.
He kind of feels like he keeps sticking his nose in where it doesn't belong.
Oh, okay. Okay.
The adults one.
Right. So for those of you who aren't watching, this show's called School Spirits. It's on Netflix, right?
Yes, but it's a Paramount show.
Right.
So it was on Paramount
Plus.
Yep. So it was on Paramount Plus because I remember seeing it in the summer and being like, I should watch that. And then forgot.
Now it's on Netflix. Yeah.
Yep.
And it did get renewed for season 2.
Yes.
But anyway, it's about a young girl, high school and aged, and she goes missing, and she is still at the school as a ghost, I guess, and she is trying to solve her disappearance. She
assumed murder because she's a ghost. She thinks
she's been murdered. Yeah.
Yep. But she can't remember anything.
Yeah, she doesn't remember anything. She doesn't remember who could have done it. So she is trying. I won't spoil the cute little gimmick they use in the beginning so that she's not doing this all alone. But there are other ghosts that have died at the school, and they have kind of like a support group, and they sit in a circle and talk about things with
the band kids.
Yeah.
That would be my hell.
Oh my God. The marching band, they died on a trip. And so they are just marching in a circle.
Coming back into the like school parking lot or something. It flipped and.
Yeah. And so they're just playing their instruments in their uniforms in a circle in the yard.
And doing their formation.
Yeah.
Nightmarish.
Nightmarish. That's hell.
But one thing I love about this one, because it's so unique compared to like every other show we see with ghosts, is that they can steal things that the living have, but it doesn't show up in the living realm. So they go and get like the donuts out of the teacher's lounge and they're eating donuts, or one of them always has a different color sucker. And
yes, I noticed that
because they can go and get things and it doesn't show up as missing for people.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought that was really creative and unique because we always see where, well, they're going through walls. They're not going through walls here. They're not going through anything.
Yeah.
And we always see like they can't grab things. And in this one, it's like, well, yeah, we can, and we can manipulate things. It just doesn't show.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
there were some really clever ways to do that so that the ghosts are interacting with each other and with the environment, but they're not seen by living people.
Which there has to be some very funny outtakes from.
Oh, yeah.
Like when they're sitting there staring at someone's face.
Yeah.
You can't see them.
Yeah. It was probably a really fun show to do.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. It's really cute. It's funny. It's sweet.
The football player, that's Cameron Manheim's son.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. If you go back and watch it, he looks very much like his mom.
Oh, I love her.
He was also on Dancing with the Stars a few years ago. So I was like, wait, I recognize him. And so I looked him up and I was like, oh, that's why.
Oh.
He was a Disney kid.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I liked him.
Mm-hmm.
And he died in the 80s.
Yeah,
and so he
85,
looked like,
I think.
Yeah. So he looked like every 80s guy I liked in high school. So, yeah.
He was a football player. I liked, what we have found of how some of these spirits had passed away. And just then you think about like I know when I went to high school, we had a handful of kids that died, not necessarily at the school. I think we had one. And it was at a dance, and I think he collapsed.
Oh.
He had gotten high and had asthma and had complications, and yeah.
Yikes.
But at least that's what I think that's kind of where things had gone on. But yeah, you think about like all the places where people have been at school has got to be a nightmare to be trapped in.
Yeah. I wouldn't like that.
But there are a lot of empty places in this school that they can go into.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, it's really cute. It's clever. I recommend watching it. Like I said, I finished it. I was blown away by the ending, and I'm so glad there's going to be a season 2. And I really enjoyed it. I'm going to probably watch it again, even if I have to watch it by myself.
Well, I can already figure out that. Again, glad there's a season 2, because these kinds of shows wait to the very end to have some sort of resolution.
Yep.
And then if they do it well, there's a cliffhanger that you're like Midnight Club. I don't know if you watched that one.
I did.
There was a bit of a cliffhanger. Not everything was tied up in a bow, and now we'll never know what happens because
they canceled it. Yeah, I loved that show. That made me mad that they didn't do that.
Yeah.
Greetings, friends. Do you have a taste for the unknown? Are your days plagued with thoughts of the strange and morbid? Has your thirst to know about the world's most sadistic killers ever been quenched? If not, then I'm here to help. Join me on the Nightcap Nebula podcast, where I, your humble storyteller, take you on a glorious ride into the mysterious universal abyss. Learn why your neighbor might be harboring a really horrible secret, or if that conspiracy theory you thought was false turned out to be real. Whatever your dark desire, you'll find it here. Follow me on Instagram at the Nightcap Nebula Pod for updates to the show, and listen anywhere you get your podcasts. Until then, be safe and stay curious. Now, back to your program.
Okay.
I suppose we have to talk about our
get back to the
serial
show.
killer widow.
Yes. So that's one of the one that Amy sees, this dead woman. She's the one hovering over people. And Amy says she tried to kill someone here. She's evil. She's mad. Amy said she got up on her shoulders and tried to push her
Push
shoulders up.
down.
Oh my God. She
So-
crawls up their backs and pushes down their shoulders. That's what she does
And
to the
she
living people.
likes to stick her fingers in
Yes.
people's skulls and play with their brain, potentially
gross.
causing memory loss,
Mhm.
memory
Seizures.
issues, like kind of basically blackouts
Yeah.
and seizures. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she does this especially. She hates children, especially under the age of 18, which,
Mhm.
by the way, everyone in the house is.
Except for
minus
Courtney.
yeah, except for Courtney.
Yeah.
And we are led to believe that this is George Beeman's wife, Mary Brown.
Yes.
So, and by the way, that's the sketch that was horrifying to look at.
Very
Her
scary.
eyes.
Very scary.
Oh, so George Beeman married a spinster, Mary
Of course
Brown.
he
So
did.
she was probably like 25.
Yeah. The ripe old age of, yeah.
But I'm trying to figure out, how did she manipulate him to do this? Because he supposedly potentially died by suicide by walking around gates and walking in front of a train
Yeah.
that was going 40 miles an hour
Yeah.
in 1899.
Yep.
He left his wife a very large sum of money.
Yep.
So I'm like, in my brain, I'm like, did she make him sick or hallucinate? Like, was he hallucinating? Maybe was something going on that they never would have checked for. And,
Right. Well, I mean, they do think that she used poison.
Yes.
So it's possible she poisoned him, but she only gave him enough for his brain to be a little wacky.
yes. Yeah.
Or maybe she was on that walk with him and she
And-
gave him a little
yeah.
shove.
I actually joked about that with my mom. And, well, Mary, so George train, let's see, I mentioned earlier, they said 1,700 feet away from your client's property. That's a quarter mile about.
Mhm.
And yeah, he apparently went around the gates. Then as soon as, like, shortly after that, Mary moved in a bunch of her family, like her mom, dad, and was it a brother or a
Brother
cousin
and her
or something?
uncle.
Okay. Yeah. So she
Mom,
moved in.
dad, brother, uncle.
Yep. She moved in 4 people and they
Mhm.
all died in 9 years.
Hmm.
And then she died in the house at 73 in 1923,
Hmm.
which then she gave to her brother Avery
Hmm.
and his family. And then 4 more people died. And Amy's like, yep, she killed them too. So
Yeah.
from beyond the grave,
Yeah.
she was still had something of it. Because obviously she hasn't done that since, it seems like.
No, I don't think so. But well, who knows before?
Right.
I mean, there's a good gap there between when Lisa's family had this house and when this
And we have
happened.
no idea exactly when Lisa's family moved into this house or any of the history of her family. There's nothing. It's a black space.
Right. Right.
And
So we
then,
don't really
yeah.
know.
Amy, what did I have in here about living are affected by this woman? She tried to kill someone. She's evil. She's mad. She pushes on the shoulder. She causes extreme distress.
Mhm.
She wants everyone gone. She's a widow. She hates children. She explores their brains. She's insane. She influences the living to do horrible things. And Amy believes that she killed her family.
Yep.
And basically says the same thing in the reveal. I
Yeah.
think at one point Steve says to Lisa to talk about, tell her about the sicknesses and the way you're feeling.
Mhm.
And Lisa tells her things, and then she's like, and migraines, I get migraines. And Amy's like, migraines are something else. And Lisa's face is like, what? Like,
Mhm.
they're not caused by somebody else was causing the like sickness issues.
Uh-huh.
The migraines, I think, are being tied to the widow.
Okay. Okay.
That's kind of where I got.
Yeah. I remember her saying migraines and then I felt like it never was addressed again. And I didn't really put it together. But
Yeah.
yeah, I bet you're right.
But she said she was most concerned about the widow who is
Mhm.
damned to walk their graves.
Mhm.
And she keeps seeing 4 graves. So it must be the people that she killed before, allegedly.
Yeah.
And that she's having to walk, she's cursed to walk amongst their graves
Mhm.
for her entire afterlife.
Hmm.
And then I just said, I hate the second sketch.
Yeah, it was actually a really well done, but
Mhm.
but really, really, really creepy.
Oh yeah, it gave you ugh, when you
Yeah.
look at it.
Yeah. when Amy and Steve, or when Steve is talking about Mary and the family, and Amy says she thinks that she poisoned her family, and then Steve says when her family started dropping dead as soon as they moved in, and Amy says no fucking way.
Yep. And I have here, she says, yep, this is Mary. She killed everyone, extremely advanced and dangerous.
And Steve goes, she killed those last 4 people after she was dead. And she said, yep. Yep.
Well, and this goes back to when they sat down and Steve kind of goes through it. He turns to Amy and is like, Lisa thinks someone will get killed if they can't get help, because he's always got to make it somewhat dramatic.
So dramatic. Yeah.
And I really find this phrase that he uses quite often in the reveal. What you're talking about reminded me of.
Yeah.
You literally just did this research like within the last couple of days. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. Just there's something about the way that it's worded that I'm like, okay.
Yeah. They do use the same things over and over again.
Yes.
Before we get too far away from this,
yep.
on the creepy sketch, Amy says, left unchecked, she will kill everybody. And then very creepily, she says, everybody here is in danger. Everyone is in jeopardy.
Yeah. Did you notice that in this reveal, and also Matt blew out a candle?
Yes.
And then in the reveal, they had a bunch of candles all around.
Oh. I didn't notice.
I know every once in a while they have them, but I don't recall seeing Matt going through and like blowing out candles.
Yeah.
Which I also pointed out, it must have been cold because his nose and his ears were red.
Oh, well, it's upstate New York. Probably was,
Yep.
Let's see. When did this come out? August. So it's probably, it probably was later in the year, the year before.
I also always love when Amy opens, or when they show Amy opening, she never walks in and says, oh, this is a great place.
Yeah. Look what a cute house this is.
It's always like, in this one, she said there was a battle was had and the dead claimed this space.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. And the very first thing she says is, oh, this is bad.
Yes.
This is not good.
The other sketch that we have in there, because we haven't really talked about the Mosher and Earl Austin, the farmer, and his farmhand.
The brutal double homicide.
The brutal double homicide. I know. I'm sorry, guys. We've been all over the place tonight.
That's okay.
This is what happens. But it was in 1918, and Mosher and his wife and 15-year-old daughter Blanche lived in the house. They moved in, and it was in 1918. Earl Austin was their farmhand. Apparently he and Mosher got into Moser. Can't remember if it was Moser or Mosher.
It's Mosher. I wrote Mosher.
Okay.
McClellan Mosher.
McClellan. That they got into an argument, and Earl killed him with an axe. Blanche and her cousin Wilma were, good God, is Wilma smart? Blanche and Wilma were out somewhere. They happened to come back in while Earl was still there. And he hit Wilma with the axe, but just stunned her, and then beat Blanche to death. Mm-hmm. Wilma convinced him in her dazed state, I really didn't like my family anyways. You're doing me a favor. We should run away and elope. Mm-hmm. And at first you kind of think like, oh, could they be the Bonnie and Clyde people? Like, could this be the tie-in?
I thought that maybe
but then they get to the train tracks and
him.
She turns him into the conductor.
Yeah.
And they arrest him. He gets away, but he's arrested 10 miles down the road.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just the wherewithal to think about that after you walked in and see your uncle murdered, you see your cousin get murdered, and you've been attacked.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why my brain was like, maybe they are the Bonnie and Clyde.
I was like, oh, she was working with him. And this is just the story she told later.
Yeah.
And maybe, she really was with him. I didn't put it together that it could be the Bonnie and Clyde couple, though. But this was in the 1818.
No, 1918.
Oh, you're right. 1918. Yep. So it could be. Yeah, it could
But
be.
I don't think so because
You
then
don't think so?
no, because she turns him in.
Yeah, she just told the conductor who he was, but he still got away.
But for 10 miles, it wasn't
not
very
forever.
long. And then he was convicted of first degree and murder, was sent to prison, but died in 1949 in a mental hospital.
Yeah.
And Amy believes that this is the person who is wandering around with a dead girl at his feet saying, I didn't kill her. I didn't kill her. I didn't kill her. I didn't do it. Which then makes you think, multiple personality type thing. Like, is there something else that's going on? Something else took over
or he killed her, but it was because Wilma told him to. Just saying.
Could be. One will never know.
Well, we'll never know. I'm tempted to look up this in newspapers.com and see if I can find more stories.
You should.
Because when the story comes up later, when the sheriff told Steve the story, he said he hit Wilma. Wilma was dazed, but ran off. Then he killed Blanche.
Mm-hmm.
Later when the story is told, it says he killed Blanche first and then went to get Wilma.
Okay.
So I
didn't catch that.
Yeah, the story's not exactly the same in both times it was told.
Interesting. It's fun when we watch these things and we pick up on some of the inconsistencies or the changes.
Well, and Steve also said he never confessed in the reveal. Steve said he never confessed, but he pled insanity.
Yes.
And in the story, when the sheriff is telling it, he says he confessed.
Yep.
So which one is it?
Yep. And I put in another comment from my mom, just going back to Lisa and the house she goes, she's really confusing. Didn't she say she grew up in the house, but all this happened since they moved in?
I think she grew up in the house, went to school or whatever.
I think it might have been like her grandparents' house.
It could have been very well.
I don't get the feeling that she lived there the whole time, but has a lot of memories that are associated with it. But again, we know nothing. But I wrote down the quote of what Amy said. Did you happen to write that down?
Which
or when she's like for the end when she's telling them their advice?
Let me scroll to that part. Oh, yes. Well, I wrote down part of it. I didn't write down all of it. You go ahead.
The first part of it is, I want to be clear. You need to vacate this house as soon as possible and have someone waiting for you to remove the attachments. Like, she is like, you need to get the fuck out of this house.
Like, what time is it? When can you get out of here?
Yesterday. And you need to have somebody cut these ties from you from the widow immediately. You need an exorcism. Basically, everybody needs an exorcism, and they need an exorcism of the house for the widow.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's like, and then you need to come back here and need to help move everybody else on. Because basically you fucked up the first time when you tried to have them banished instead of moved on.
Right.
But I wrote down when she said that you need to get an exorcist or an exorcism, at least they show Lisa and Brad both kind of like shaking their heads.
Yeah.
And then Steve says, well, if they do all that, can they move back in? And Amy goes, I'd burn that fucker to the ground.
Yep.
I wouldn't live here. I wouldn't sell it to anybody. There shouldn't even be a house here. It should be gone.
Yeah. She said, don't even let anyone else live here. This property is bad.
And then, of course, we hear staying isn't an option for us. And I'm in for moving. The memories are there and you can take them with you. That was Brad.
Yep.
And staying isn't an option. I think that was Lisa that said that. And then Brad says, we'll stay and battle together.
I thought he said stand in battle together.
And
that's what I wrote down.
That might be what he said, but I heard stay and battle together. And I was like, either way, we know what the answer is at the end here.
They're saying that they're going to leave, but they're lying.
They're looking for a demonologist and the activity continues.
Yeah. Yeah. When the screen comes up and it says, Lisa and Brad have decided to stay in the house. That's when I yelled, are you fucking kidding me? And I even wrote it in my notes in big yellow caps. Yeah. Lisa and Brad have decided to stay in the house. So I wonder where they are now, or if they're even alive, or.
Yeah. I didn't look up anything with that, but it's
I didn't have time. We can do an after show of this if we want. If I have time, I'll look up some stuff. And if I find anything good true crimey, we can do another episode with it.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, I get it's money to leave a house.
Yes.
It's not like Amy goes in with this lightly to tell people that you have to pick up and move, but she gave them options to help. Even if they stayed in the house, if they had, maybe they needed to go and live with family in the area for a little bit of time.
Yeah.
And get some of those attachments from the widow. Otherwise, she's never going to leave because she's had enough ways to ground herself. Ugh.
Yeah. It was kind of a scary episode. I mean, in ways.
Yeah.
I will say that first sketch though made me laugh because it looked like there was an episode that we did before. I don't remember any if you were on at the time, if it was just me and Megan, but it looked like a drawing of Farrah Fawcett that I did when I was like 9 years old. It was a girl's face, and then she had like sausage curls. And it was really bad. And we always joke about that one being the worst one. This one looked a lot like it. But then the second sketch was really good.
Yeah. And I will say, sometimes I look at the sketches and I look at the pictures that they have and I'm like, oh, are we trying a little too hard to make this connection?
Well,
because
and when, Steve goes, it looks just like him. I'm like, no, it fucking doesn't.
It doesn't look nothing like him at all.
And the guy goes, oh, it looks like him, his chin. The photograph is so dark, he doesn't even have a chin in it.
It was a square chin on the picture.
Oh, God.
But
that was funny.
Yeah. There's always some of them that I'm like, I can see where they're coming from with this. But then others, I'm like,
some of them are spot on. But yeah.
Maybe
this wasn't.
I would love if this gets renewed, is to stop having Steve lead people down paths and not reacting to the sketch first. React.
Oh, I don't even want to show this to you.
Or hand it to them so they open it first.
Yeah.
I just, that's been something that has bothered me from the start when I started watching this, over a decade ago, is that, this is going to horrify. Like, this is going to give you nightmares. Like, you don't want to see this because it's got your child in it.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you got people already crying before you show them the picture.
Right. Right. Well, that's how police interrogate people. So, yeah, I wish they hadn't done it that way, but we'll see. I don't know. We still don't know if they're being renewed.
Nope.
We probably, I would think if they were going to be renewed for a season that they'd have to start filming.
They can use the writer's strike and actor strike, which are now over, for a little while longer. Yeah. As a crutch.
Right.
I don't know.
But even if it got renewed tomorrow, that means that's when they would pick the families. That's when they would start investigating. We're talking 2 years before there's a show on.
Which, by the way, the episode that I watched by accident instead of this one, they only moved into the house 6 months previously.
Oh, so things must have gone really quickly for them between when they called and when they got in.
Yeah. So,
or they're lying, or someone's lying. Is that what you're saying?
I don't know. I can't wait to go through till you guys watch that one and kind of go through. This is the one where I was like, I'm not going to ask Amy. I'm going to look for the information myself. And I was like, well, this one doesn't have the title, but it said season 8. And then I was like, oh, it's episode 96. And we have like an area where we have some like notes and synopsis of things. And I read the synopsis and I was like, okay, it's about a grandfather wanting to take care of his grandson. Oh, that's Influence to Kill. So I watched that one, which was almost the same title as the one we just covered.
Lust to Kill.
And then Amy and I got into massive confusion with, like I said, Mercury's in the microwave.
Yep. Oh, God.
But that was a really interesting one. So I can't wait for you guys to watch that one, because it does involve a little boy. And you could definitely tell that something is bothering him when Steve's interviewing him.
Really? Like at the moment? When,
Steve doesn't call it out, but you can
Interesting.
watch the kid and he's like,
like the other
Yeah.
one we did recently with the little girl who kept looking over her shoulder at the thing that was in the closet. So
only
scary.
he's 6 in this one. So, but that's not next week's episode.
No. Do you want to tell people what we're doing next week?
Yeah. So everyone, thanks for joining us today.
Yes, thank
Next
you.
week, we will be recapping a different The Dead Files episode. It's one that I chose, and it's called No Vacancy from season 6, episode 3, which aired April 16th of 2016. And truthfully, I chose this one by looking, I like to find the ones that are like the hotels or the library or the museum or some of those things. And I'm so glad I chose this one because there's actually a lot of history to it's at a place called the Holbrook Hotel.
Okay.
And there's a lot of history in the area. The owner's interesting.
Cool.
The people who worked there, you're like, yeah, I can understand this. And I feel like it's been on one of our other fun favorite shows.
Great. Do you know what part of the world it is? What?
California.
State? Okay.
It is in Grass Valley, California, which was the heart of the gold rush in the 1850s and 60s. And I will just say they call this hotel the heart of the city. If you want to play a drinking game, every time they call it the heart of the city or so important to the town, drink because it's about a half dozen times at least.
Wow. All right. Maybe we'll have to call the episode that. Heart of the city.
It's pretty good. So I hope you get a chance to watch it and listen to us next week.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Activity Continues podcast. We really appreciate you giving us your ears for a bit. Please reach out if you have a spooky story you'd like us to share on the show. We can be reached at theactivitycontinues@gmail.com or through our website or any of our socials. Links are all in the description of the show. Please feel free to drop us a note and say hi. And join us next time when the activity continues. The Activity Continues is produced by me, Amy, at Collected Sounds Media and is part of the independent Collected Sounds podcast network. We are also proud members of the Boo Pod network of super cool podcasts.
Nailed it.